So many of us talk about the aging body, the lines that etch themselves onto our skin, the slowing of our steps. But how often do we dare to speak about what happens to the soul as we reach old age? There's a profound societal silence surrounding this, almost as if it's a forbidden topic, an unspoken rule not to admit that inside every senior, every elder, dwells a soul that doesn't wrinkle, doesn't truly age, a soul that refuses to lose its innate vitality or simply settle into the relentless passage of time. This inner self, this core of our being, continues its journey of growth, continues to learn and passionately seeks answers, understanding and connection until the very last day of earthly life. The renowned psychic and spiritual teacher, Edgar Cayce, whose work delved deeply into consciousness and the soul's journey across lifetimes, often illuminated the idea that our elders carry profound wisdom, a knowing that transcends the confines of this single existence. He taught that the aging of the physical body is merely one stage, perhaps the final stage, of a much grander, more intricate soul contract, a divine blueprint. And that sacred contract, that soul agreement, doesn't simply conclude with the arrival of old age. It merely transitions, moving into a new and often deeply significant phase of experience and expression. If people truly understood what happens to the soul during this precious stage of life, perhaps they would begin to look upon the elderly not with pity or dismissal, but with a deep and abiding reverence. Because there are luminous truths about the souls of our older generation that few have the courage to truly face, truths that could transform our understanding of life itself. And one of those powerful truths is that as the years advance, the soul often begins to gently detach from the many illusions, the worldly concerns, that once seemed so overwhelmingly important. Do you wish to attract positivity and good vibrations into your life? Comment "believe" below to affirm your desire for good things and to join our collective intention for a brighter path. And please tap like if you're ready to welcome these positive energies. When the decades pass and the body no longer responds with the quickness or strength it once did, it's entirely natural for a certain inner quiet to emerge, a sacred stillness to blossom within. This creates a hallowed space where the soul, the true self, begins to speak more clearly, its gentle whispers less obscure by the clamor of daily life. Edgar Cayce, through his profound insights, often described this as a period of significant inner adjustment, almost a vibrational transition. It's as if the soul, in its infinite wisdom, begins to prepare itself in advance for something greater, something more expansive that awaits beyond the horizon of this current life. Be sure to stay with us, because as our journey unfolds, we'll uncover perspective on the spiritual experiences of aging that might truly surprise you and touch your heart deeply. During this phase, many seniors report experiencing unusual sensations, vivid dreams that feel more real than waking life, and sudden, poignant memories that they can't quite place or rationally explain. Sometimes they sense comforting presences around them. Sometimes they hear gentle calls or guidance from within. And sometimes they see with the eyes of the soul, perceiving truths with their physical eyes closed. All of this, from a perspective like Cayce's, is not only natural but profoundly meaningful. It signals a drawing closer to the veil, a heightened sensitivity to the spiritual realities that always surround us. But what specific changes does the soul undergo, and how does this impact the inner world of our beloved elders? The next part of our exploration will delve into these very questions. For many decades, societal narratives have often painted aging as a slow, inevitable extinguishing of a candle, a gradual fading into twilight. But the profound spiritual perspective offered by visionaries like Edgar Cayce reveals a completely different and far more inspiring truth. From his viewpoint, old age isn't a dimming, but rather like the moment when the flame of a candle, instead of flickering out, retreats to shine even more brilliantly from within. The external manifestations of the mind, the quick processing of daily trivia, may indeed appear to slow down, but the soul, the eternal essence of who we are, embarks on a period of profound expansion. Dreams often become more vivid, carrying deeper symbolic meaning and insight. Emotions can gain an extraordinary depth and richness, and subjects or questions that were previously ignored or dismissed during the hustle of younger years suddenly begin to resonate and make a new kind of sense. How many times have you, or perhaps an older loved one, experienced that distinct feeling, after reaching a certain age, that you began to perceive the world, yourself, and others in a fundamentally different light? This is a sign of weakness or a disengagement from reality, as some might mistakenly assume. Instead, it signifies a heightened perception, a sharpening of the soul's senses. It is the soul itself, your innermost being, gently showing you that there is always more to understand, more to feel, more to become. It is evidence of a spiritual intelligence, a deeper wisdom, manifesting with quiet subtlety, yet with undeniable firmness and clarity. This burgeoning inner awareness, this blossoming of the soul's perceptive capacities in later life, remains one of the most significant and beautiful secrets that our modern society often avoids discussing or even acknowledging. Why? Perhaps because it takes a particular kind of courage to look beyond the purely physical, to value the invisible realms of experience, and to truly accept the profound reality that the souls of our elderly are not only surviving, but are often more vibrant, more engaged in deep inner work, and more spiritually alive than ever before. This inner vitality, this continued journey of the soul, is a testament to the enduring nature of consciousness. It challenges us to reconsider our definitions of vitality, purpose, and what it truly means to live a full life. The physical vessel may show the passage of years, but the spirit within is timeless, ever learning, ever growing, and ever seeking to connect with the deeper currents of existence. This understanding invites us to approach the aging process in ourselves and in others, not with apprehension, but with a sense of awe and anticipation for the spiritual unfolding that it can herald. The quiet wisdom that emanates from an elder is a precious gift, offering perspectives that can only be cultivated through long experience and deep inner listening. But what of the societal tendency to measure worth by external productivity? And how does the soul's journey in old age contrast with these often superficial values? We will explore this compelling aspect next, uncovering how the soul redefines purpose in these later chapters of life. Many people in our productivity-focused society fall into belief that as the years accumulate, our usefulness inevitably declines. But the soul, that eternal, vital part of us, simply doesn't measure worth or purpose by the same fleeting standards that the external world often imposes. According to profound spiritual insights of Edgar Cayce, the souls who have gathered the most experience, those we might consider older souls in their journey of unfoldment, are often the very ones who have chosen to incarnate for the greatest challenges, the most significant lessons. They come into earthly life prepared to navigate deep, transformative experiences, encounters that demand immense emotional resilience, unwavering faith, and profound spiritual wisdom. This perspective offers a beautiful and compassionate explanation for why so many older individuals carry within them epic stories of silent overcoming, quiet victories of the spirit that are rarely spoken of, but are deeply felt and integrated into the fabric of their being. Sometimes those tired eyes, which may seem to reflect only the weariness of age, conceal a soul that has traveled incredibly long and arduous roads, a spirit that has been young and vibrant, strong and rebellious, daring and adventurous. And now, having navigated myriad experiences, this soul observes a world and its unfoldings with a greater sense of calm, a profound equanimity, because it has learned through countless lessons that very few things are truly definitive or absolute in the way they once seemed. Edgar Cayce often taught that as individuals mature, especially when the frenetic rush of youth gives way to a more contemplative state of inner listening, they can gain deeper access to what he famously termed the Akashic Records, or the Book of Life. These are, in essence, the soul's own indelible records, a vibrational archive of every thought, emotion, and experience across all its journeys. He suggested that this profound wellspring of wisdom, this deep spiritual memory, often becomes more accessible when the outer world's demands lessen and the inner life is cultivated. And this access, this connection to the soul's vast repository of experience, is truly priceless. It is a source of profound understanding, peace, and a sense of continuity that transcends the limitations of a single lifetime. It allows for a broader perspective on personal history, relationships, and life's overarching purpose. This inner knowing, this quiet communion with the soul's history, is a hallmark of the spiritual ripening that can occur in the golden years. It is a treasure often hidden from a world too busy to pause and listen, yet it is abundantly available to those who cultivate stillness and honor the inner voice. This connection explains the serene depth and unspoken wisdom that so often radiates from our elders. But beyond this deep knowing, What other subtle shifts occur in the soul's landscape as it navigates the later seasons of life? What about the nature of memory itself, and the intuitive nudges that seem to surface with greater frequency? We shall explore these fascinating dimensions next. What many people also may not realize is that as we age, the soul often begins a profound process of remembering, drawing not just from the biological memory of the brain, but from a far deeper reservoir, its own spiritual memory. These are not ordinary recollections. They are nuanced insights, subtle perceptions, and powerful intuitions that can arise quite suddenly without conscious bidding. Edgar Cayce's extensive work, which included thousands of life readings detailing soul histories, frequently revealed that memories and influences from past lives often come more strongly to the surface or become crucial for understanding as individuals mature and enter periods of deeper reflection. This is a mere coincidence. Cayce's teaching suggests it is a form of spiritual preparation, a soul-level review and integration. The soul, in its wisdom, often utilizes a quieter interlude of old age as a kind of portal, a unique phase where the conscious mind tends to relax its grip, worldly desires and ambitions may diminish, and consequently, the spiritual field, the connection to subtler realms of consciousness, becomes more readily accessible. It is therefore remarkably common for our elders to experience vivid premonitions, deeply symbolic or prophetic dreams, or profound, inexplicable feelings that seem to well up from an unknown depth. Society, unfortunately, in its lack of understanding, often dismisses these sacred experiences, labeling them as mere delirium, confusion, or wistful fantasy. But in reality, according to spiritual perspectives like Cayce's, it is often the soul attempting to communicate its truths, to share its wisdom, to prepare itself and sometimes others for what is to come. In this often silent, deeply internal process, many seniors feel an intense and undeniable urge to revisit their past in meaningful ways. They may seek out people with whom they've lost contact over the decades, express a desire to resolve unfinished business, or feel compelled to ask for or offer forgiveness. There's often a deep need to understand the true meaning behind certain pivotal life choices. Edgar Cayce taught that such impulses are far from random. They are the soul's earnest attempt to close cycles, to balance karmic accounts, and to bring a sense of completion before embarking on its next great journey. To continue inviting enlightenment and the flow of good things into your journey, comment hope below as a personal affirmation for continued illumination and positive happenings. It is as if our deepest consciousness inherently knows that it is approaching a significant threshold, a transition, and therefore it strives to put everything in order, at least within the landscape of the heart and mind. This powerful impulse to seek reconciliation, to revisit old places with new understanding, or to finally voice words that have been held back for decades, is a profound movement of the soul asking for peace, for resolution, for healing. And for those who courageously answer this inner call, a remarkable sense of relief and serenity often follows. Regardless of one's physical age, there is always time and opportunity to heal what was left unresolved, because the soul, in its eternal nature, never truly forgets what still needs to be brought into the light of love and understanding. This inner work, this courageous turning towards a path for healing and completion, also paves the way for another remarkable faculty to blossom, a heightened energetic sensitivity. What does this entail for the aging soul? We'll explore this fascinating aspect next. Another fascinating, yet seldom discussed, aspect of the soul's journey in later life is the remarkable increase in energetic sensitivity that often occurs. Edgar Cayce, through his deep explorations of human consciousness, observed that many seniors develop a far more refined and acute perception of their environment, of the people around them, and even of the unspoken intentions and emotional undercurrents in various situations. They might find themselves able to sense when something is subtly amiss, even if no words are spoken. They may perceive shifts in the emotional climate of a home, intuit news before it officially arrives, or feel a distinct, unexplainable urge to avoid certain places or encounters. This heightened sensitivity isn't a random occurrence or a figment of an overactive imagination. From a Cayce perspective, it signifies the soul becoming more directly connected, more open, and more attentively attuned to the subtle frequencies of life, precisely because the dominating influence of the purely rational, analytical mind often lessens with age. This unfolding awareness shouldn't be ignored, dismissed as mere exaggeration, or treated as a symptom of aging. On the contrary, it should be welcomed and honored as a precious spiritual gift, a unique form of wisdom that often blossoms beautifully with the passage of time. How many times have you, or someone you know, experienced a strong gut feeling, a deep inner knowing that was difficult to articulate logically, only to have events later confirm that intuitive nudge that is often the soul in its expanded awareness, attempting to protect, to warn, or to gently guide you in silence? Regrettably, modern life, with its relentless pace and focus on the external, often has little patience for truly listening to the elderly. Conversations can be hurried, gazes may stray, and time always seems too scarce for unhurried communion. But the wisdom, the connection, the spiritual richness that is lost in this rushed dynamic is truly incalculable. Edgar Cayce often emphasized that our elders are like living archives of spiritual wisdom, repositories of lived experience and soul learning. They don't necessarily feel the need to convince anyone of their insights or to argue their points. Often, they simply need the space to tell a story, to share a memory calmly, so that within that seemingly simple account, a profound lesson, a pearl of wisdom, is gently embedded for the receptive heart. For this transmission to occur, however, it is absolutely essential to truly listen, not just to hear the words, but to listen with focused attention, with heartfelt presence, with genuine openness. Because when a senior speaks from the depths of their heart, they are often allowing you a precious opportunity to come into contact with experiences, insights, and a quality of understanding that may go far beyond the confines of this present life. Their soul, given the space, expresses itself without haste, without the noise of ego, without vanity. And perhaps this is precisely why so many, in their busyness, fail to perceive the immense value held within these quiet words. They are too preoccupied with the visible to truly see the profound beauty of the invisible, the spiritual gold that our elders hold. This naturally leads to another common, yet often misinterpreted, characteristic of the soul's journey in later years, a growing need for silence and contemplation. What is the true meaning behind this inward turning? We'll explore this next. Accompanying this heightened energetic sensitivity, there is also often a growing, deeply felt need for silence in the lives of the elderly. Some observers may misinterpret this inclination as a sign of loneliness, withdrawal, or even sadness. However, more often than not, it is a sacred silence, a conscious turning inward for profound contemplation and recollection. Edgar Cayce, in his deep understanding of the soul's journey, often indicated that the soul, as it intuitively prepares for its next stage of experience beyond this earthly life, actively seeks out moments of quietude and reflection, not from a place of discouragement or disinterest in life, but from a deep desire for inner communion and contemplation. During these times, the senior individual often begins to observe more and speak less. They may perceive minute details in their surroundings, recall vivid smells, sounds, and fleeting glances from decades long past, as if they are carefully gathering the essence of all they have lived, preserving these precious experiences in some very intimate, sacred chamber of the heart. This silence is not empty. It is full of meaning, rich with unspoken understanding. It is a moment when the soul observes its own vast journey, reflecting upon its tapestry of experiences and beginning to understand, with a new depth of clarity, that nothing was truly in vain, that every moment held a lesson or a purpose. Those on the outside, caught in the rush of the world, may not comprehend this inward turning. They might perceive it as isolation, but within the elder's inner world, what is actually occurring is a profound spiritual dialogue, a silent yet incredibly powerful preparation and integration. Another deeply relevant point in understanding the soul's journey in later life is the beautiful awakening of spiritual humility. As the passions and driving ambitions of youth gently recede, so too do many of the ego's vanities and illusions. The soul, increasingly free from these worldly pressures, begins to accept more readily, to judge less harshly, and to understand with greater compassion. Edgar Cayce's teachings consistently highlight this unfolding of humility as one of the greatest spiritual gifts that can accompany the aging process. Pride often gives way to a heartfelt desire for forgiveness and reconciliation. The competitive urges of earlier years may soften into a spirit of cooperation and shared understanding. The tight grip of attachment to material possessions, to status, or to specific outcomes often begins to lose its strength. Consequently, Many elderly people report feeling significantly lighter within themselves, more at peace, even while their physical bodies may be carrying limitations or discomforts. This inner lightness occurs because, spiritually, they are consciously or unconsciously detaching from that which no longer serves their soul's growth, from burdens that no longer make sense to carry. This profound process of detachment isn't always easy. It can involve experiencing losses, navigating significant changes, and engaging in a great deal of honest introspection. But it also invariably brings a deep and abiding peace. A peace that doesn't come from external circumstances, but blossoms from within the soul itself as it learns to accept its own timing, its own unique path, with greater wisdom and far less resistance. Edgar Cayce also affirmed through his work that many seniors find themselves closer to fulfilling their spiritual mission, their soul's purpose, than ever before. It doesn't matter how many years they've lived or what they've accomplished by worldly standards up to that point. The true mission of the soul, its core reason for being, can be revealed and embraced at 30 or at 90 or at any point along the journey. And often, the very last years of life are among the most spiritually important. It is during this time that the soul may feel it is finally ready to complete something truly essential, perhaps a long-sought reconciliation, the sharing of vital teaching, the quiet offering of an example of love or resilience to grandchildren, or a profound internal shift that creates healing ripples through generations. Nothing is ever small or insignificant when it flows from the soul. Therefore, it is a profound misunderstanding to think that someone is merely at the end. Spiritually, they may be at their absolute peak. The body may indeed be tired, but the spirit is often incredibly firm, lucid, and vibrantly connected with a purpose that transcends mere physical appearance, worldly productivity, or the limited logic of the material world. It is a purpose of the soul, pure and simple. If this journey of reflection and discovery speaks to your heart, supporting us with a like and subscribing to the channel allows us to continue sharing these inspiring explorations together. Even in the face of illness or physical decline, the soul's intrinsic vitality doesn't diminish. In fact, it often shines more brightly. How does the spirit navigate these ultimate challenges? And what further connections to the unseen world might emerge? We will touch upon these final, sacred aspects next. Even in the face of advancing illness or significant physical limitations, the soul's intrinsic light does not diminish. Indeed, it often becomes even more apparent. Edgar Cayce's teaching suggests that in moments of greater physical fragility, the spirit can become exceptionally active, experiencing a natural and necessary loosening of the ties between consciousness and the material form. The discomforts experienced may not solely be of the body, but can also signify the soul gently freeing itself from old, confining patterns, preparing for its continued journey. Some may feel fear in this process, while others may experience a profound sense of relief or anticipation. Yet, all are traversing a sacred path, part of a much larger, benevolent cycle. When there is an understanding of this cycle, pain can be transformed into learning, limitation can become a sacred pause for reflection, and uncertainty can evolve into a serene preparation. The souls of our beloved elderly, in these tender moments, aren't failing. They are completing a profound chapter that began long before this earthly life, a journey that deserves our deepest honor, respect, and true, heartfelt listening. Furthermore, Edgar Cayce often spoke of the increased proximity and comfort of spirit guides and angelic helpers during these significant life phases, including old age. These loving presences aren't always visible to the physical eye, but are frequently perceived through comforting sensations, sudden waves of inexplicable peace, accurate intuitions, vivid dreams, or even a distinct feeling of not being alone, even when no one else is physically present. This, from Cayce's perspective, is not a sign of confusion but of enhanced connection. The soul, less distracted by the noise and demands of the external world, naturally begins to listen more acutely to the subtle signals from the spiritual plane. It is as if the veils that gently separate the worlds become thinner, allowing the elder to become a living bridge, a point of loving contact between the visible and the invisible, between the now and what is to come. This period often brings with it a growing desire to share, to teach, to leave a legacy of wisdom, not necessarily in grand pronouncements, but in the simple sharing of life experiences. The soul's natural urge to transmit what is learned. Each elder carries within them an invisible library of memories, lessons, and spiritual understanding. It is also a time when the soul may yearn for simplicity, finding relief in detaching from non-essential routines or possessions, seeking the freedom to simply be, authentically and peacefully. What truly remains, what truly matters, is not what is materially accumulated, but what is deeply lived and lovingly shared. The soul in its essence has no age. It continues to learn, to transform, and prepare for new cycles of experience. Even when the physical body prepares to say goodbye, the journey of the soul is eternal, a continuous unfolding into greater light and love. As we reflect on our shared journey and the profound interconnectedness of all things, the understanding that though our paths are individual, our spiritual essence is united, comment, "We are connected," below to affirm this universal truth with our community. And your exploration doesn't have to end here. Click the video now appear on your screen for another powerful message designed to support and inspire your continued spiritual growth.